Hey guys, Michael Corsentino here with my May lighting tutorial for BehindTheShutter.com and Shutter Magazine. If you haven't already, head over to BehindTheShutter.com and set yourself up with a subscription to Shutter Magazine. In my opinion, one of the best photography magazines available. Every issue is packed with inspiring photography and the know-how you need from leading photographers to take your photography and business to the next level. This month I want to talk about the lighting that you're seeing here, what inspired it, and how I went about creating it. Over time, it's become really easy for me to create images that are very evenly lit, that have a lot of light in them, blow-away backgrounds, etc., very fashion-oriented portrait kind of images. But what's become increasingly more interesting and compelling to me are images with less light, kind of a less is more mindset. And this style of lighting was inspired by the way that I see sunlight behave when it streams through windows in the afternoon and moves across various surfaces, and the way that the light behaves and the slivers of light that you can see created when that happens. If you're a lighting geek like me, these kinds of things excite you. And so I'm always really intrigued when I see that sort of thing, when I see light that's kind of hard to explain or that is very interesting and different looking than what I'm used to seeing in the studio. So that's what the impetus was for creating this series of images that we're going to look at in this tutorial. So the images we're going to look at were created using Strobe, ProPhoto Strobe. And when it comes to creating shapes with light and working with Strobe, I know of no better tool than the zoom spot, than a focusable Fresnel zoom spot. And that's what you're seeing here. On the left, you're seeing the ProPhoto zoom spot. That is the current model, which retails for about $10,000. And on the right, you're seeing what I used, which is the older version, which is the Pro Zoom spot. The difference is that the one on the left has a built-in 4,800 watt second strobe, and the one on the right does not. This one you need to outfit with you need to put your own strobe in there. So that's not a problem. You put a strobe in the back and I'm off to the races. And this one also costs $600 on eBay. So very, very different price situation. So let's talk about how this thing works. Now you saw the shape in the previous image. Let me just go back to that really quick. Okay, so there's the slash of light that I created using this light modifier right here. So and the strobe goes in here. We'll take another look at a different slide where I'll show you exactly what that's all about and what strobe I used. But what I want to focus on here are these pieces here. These are called cutters, and what they allow you to do, they're internal blades, actually. That's what they're called, blades, not cutters. And what they allow you to do is to create shapes from the light. They're essentially a gobo, a go-between. They go between the light and whatever you're photographing, whatever your subject is. And they allow you to create a very, very crisp shape. They allow you to create a very defined shape, any range of shapes that you want. And actually the crispness or softness comes here from these sliders, which allow you to focus the light or not, to create a zoom or a flood with the light, because it's got a lens on the front right here. So when it comes to creating this kind of light, I don't know of a better tool, especially if you want really crisp, defined edges. We didn't go super crisp on the edges in this, but you could. And this is what I have, so I just use it. Now, there are other ways to approach it, and we'll look at some of that as well. I also want to mention that aside from ProPhoto, I know a couple other manufacturers who offer zoom spots, Bowens and Elinchrom being two of them. So there are other options besides ProPhoto if that's not your brand of choice. Okay, so here is the pack and head system that I used. Now this thing, the Pro Zoom, needs quite a bit of light, which is I guess why they pair it with a 4,800 watt second strobe. So I used an old legacy analog pack, a ProPhoto 7A. It's 2,400 watt seconds, which you can see here, and the companion head for it right here. And then that just goes into the back with the traditional ProPhoto mounting ring. And there you go. So that's what I use, 2,400 watt second ProPhoto strobe. If you don't work with strobes and you don't have any of that equipment, I don't want you to think that you're completely out of luck. I have seen people create some really interesting effects similar to what I was created by using speedlights and either DIYing it, as you can see here with a cardboard tube and some tape. You can create a very interesting snoot effect, which will give you a strip of light, and you can mask off the front of the tube if you want to create a more rectangular shape with the light. It's not going to be exactly the same, but you can get close. And there are also purpose-built tools, light modifiers for speedlights that we'll look at in the next slide. Lastalight, a British company, makes some really, really useful speedlight modifiers. They're kind of my go-to when I'm using speedlights. And here we're looking at their Strobe frame kit, which has a whole range of Gobos, which you're seeing the hands holding. They're little discs with shapes cut in them, which will allow you to create various shapes from the light, and also a kind of speedlight oriented Fresnel, a lens that will allow you to focus the light to some degree. So again, you're not going to get exactly the same effect, but you can get close, you can approximate, you can create your own thing, which is really what it's all about. And there, you're also seeing the magnetic version right up here, this picture here. So there are several different ways to create the shapes and stuff, different options. And that is, again, the Lastalight Strobe frame. In addition to the ProPhoto zoom spot that I used for the key light, I used two accent lights. The one on the left with a 20-degree grid spot. Those are ProPhoto B1 battery-operated strobes. I used the one on the left with the grid spot to illuminate the background, to create a little bit of light in the background, but I wanted a nice tight circle of light. That's why I used the grid. You're not going to get light everywhere. It really allows you to control the light, and that's really what this shoot was all about, is controlling the light. And on the right, you're seeing, again, another ProPhoto B1 and a Rotolux, an Elechrome Rotolux 14 by 35 strip box. And I use this to put just a very, very small amount of light on the model's figure and to illuminate her clothing, because we weren't getting any separation. Everything was falling to black. When you're using really, really very focused light, very confined amounts of light, it's very easy for everything that falls outside of it to go completely pitch black, and that was not ideal for this shoot. I wanted some separation. I wanted some detail in the clothes. I wanted some separation between the model and the background, and that's really what these lights were about. And I'm going to walk you step by step through adding each one of these lights and what the result was. Here you're seeing only the key light. I only have the key light in play at the moment, and you can see here the shape that's created by that Fresnel, that zoomed Fresnel, and the blades that are used to create the shape. Also here you can see the shape as well. But everything outside of the shape, as I mentioned previously, falls to black. This is all black. The figure is all black. The background is completely black. We don't really get a sense of environment and where are the context that our model is placed within. And sometimes that's going to work, but for this, I really wanted to bring in some of that background. I wanted separation between the background and the model, and I wanted some more information on the fabric, and that is when I start to introduce other lights. So I'm going to start with an accent light to bring out the background, to create a little bit of separation between the background. So what I did was first pull the model out, turn off the key light, and focus on just adding the next light, just adding the background light. So let's take a look at that. On the right, you can see the result created using the strobe and 20-degree grid spot to illuminate the background. Now again, I used only one light in order to do this. Every other light was turned off, is what I mean. So I really like building my lighting one light at a time. It's much easier to see the contribution of each light when you turn everything off and you just work one light at a time. So if I've got my key light dialed in, I'll turn it off and I'll add in my background light, etc., etc. And the same thing for accent lights for hair and all of that. Like each light gets dialed in individually, and that really gives you a much easier way to assess the contribution that's being made. So here you're seeing the effect created with that degree grid spot, and I didn't, I had to do a few different tries before I got here, but I ended up here. This is what works for me. It's just enough illumination to create the separation that I wanted, but not too much to wash out the effect, right? Now, one thing I want you to notice is you'll see that there's kind of a natural in-camera vignette that's created by using a grid spot. The light falls off outside the initial circle of illumination, and that's a really nice effect. So rather than, and not just for this particular application, but when you're working and you're doing portraits and you're working with backgrounds or whatever, you want to create. I know a lot of people add vignettes in post, and they can sometimes look a little forced or a little fake. So try doing it, you're able to do it in camera if you use a grid spot. So definitely check out grid spots if you like to vignette your images. And here's the result of adding the background light with the grid spot, which you're seeing over here on the right. So you can see the background has considerably more illumination all through here. We really get a sense of what's going on, of the environment that we have. So we've got the key light for our shape of light here, and we've got the background light to give us some separation. Now what we can see here is the figure is still really dark, and we don't have much information happening here. So that was my next area of improvement. But let's go back and first take a look at what the previous image looked like. So here you can see no separation at all, and then we added in that background light, and that gave us a lot more separation. So definite improvement. To add detail to the model's figure, I added a third light, a second B1 with an Elinchrom 14 by 35 Rotolux strip box. And I used that to create a box of light essentially here, just to illuminate that. And only a very, very small amount of light. So again, just to create a finer point here, I'm using 3 lights right now. Okay, and I've dialed them in each individually. I'm using the key light for the slash of light that you see going horizontally or diagonally across the model. I'm using the B1 with a 20-degree, I can't seem to say that in this video, the 20-degree grid spot to illuminate the background, to create some separation between our model and the background. And then I'm using the third light, the B1, with the 14 by 35 Elinchrom Rotolux soft strip box to create some detail on the model's figure and the clothing that she's wearing. And again, create a little bit more information and a little bit more separation. Let me show you that in a lighting diagram as well. All right, so here you see everything in place. See all 3 lights. Let's just take a look at that. So, and I think I had about 8 feet from here to here, just in case anyone is wondering, about 8 feet. So we've got the grid spot, creating that circle of light back here, giving us some separation. We've got our key light, and that's going across and creating that slash of light. And then we've got our strip box, and that is just kind of opening up the shadows and giving us a little bit of detail on our figure so that everything isn't completely pitch black. So we have a sense of what she's wearing, and it helps, it gives some more information to the image. So let's take a look. Now that we have everything dialed in, this is kind of where my final lighting for this first series of images, and I want to show you some of the pictures. And lastly that. Okay, there we go. So next, I wanted to move on and create some nice, tighter 3/4 and headshots. Some really beautiful portraits using this technique. Change the lighting a little bit and move some things around in order to accommodate for that. Change the direction of the light, the direction of the slash, etc. But same basic principles, but just some tweaking. So let's take a look at that. For the series of portraits we're going to look at next, I kept the key light and the strip box that was used to illuminate the figure in basically the same places with a few modifications. First of all, for the key light, I took the internal blades and I moved the slash of light to look more like a downward facing slash rather than the kind of more horizontal look that we had initially. And so my thinking there was that, light, when you're looking at light as it in nature, as it comes through a window, it typically moves, it changes its position as the sun either sets or rises in the sky. You see that the shapes that are created, they change. And so that was what that was about. And also just to create some variation and variety. So you're seeing that this a different slash in this image. That was the first change. Also for the strip box, what I did was rather than needing it now to illuminate the figure because it's only a head and shoulders shot, I tilted it a little bit toward the background. So we'd create a little bit of separation. Again, we'd have that separation that I wanted in the background. And that now freed up the grid spot light, which I then moved over camera left and used as a hair light. And you can see the illumination that it's providing here. Right? So here is the strip box is giving me this. Obviously, the key light is giving me that slash of light, and the strip box is giving me that hair light. Okay, so let's take that off. She's so pretty. I don't want to mess her up with all those red lines. So there you go. So the next series of images was created using this lighting diagram, using this setup. All right, guys, that's going to wrap it up for this month. Whether you're working with strobes or speedlights, purpose-built pre-existing lighting modifiers, or DIY, I hope that this has inspired you to try some different things with your lighting. Until next month, this has been Michael Corsentino for BehindTheShutter.com.